Hey guys, it's me Rohan Singh and I'm back in another video today. This time I'll be talking about the term 2 exams, specifically new information about the term 2 exams. Now the reason why I'm making this sort of small update video is because CBSE just released the term 2 sample papers, which it released them back 2 to 3 days ago. So this is relatively new news, although many people have already covered it, but I would just like to go over all the sample papers quickly, just give you guys gist about them, about the difficulty, about the questions, take notes about the format of the term 2 papers, so you guys can be more well informed. And I would also like to tell you guys sort of tips which I think would apply to this format. As you all know, I've made many videos on term 2, so I've already talked about the tips for term 2, which I've gone into extra depth about. So if you want to watch that video, then click the link over here. But this video will also aid you guys in getting more additional information. And as of looking at the papers, and I've read many of them, and maybe it's a little bit biased coming from my standpoint since I studied quite a lot, but to me these sample papers compared to the term 1 sample papers are much more easier. The term 2 sample papers are much more easier than term 1 sample papers. That is something which I noticed immediately. Like, even looking at the first basic set of questions, it's a standard question paper. I feel like that the term 1 sample paper, which I didn't really talk about much since I was too busy preparing for the boards, the term 1 sample paper was lengthy and it was filled with hard questions, and it was filled with many calculations, and overall it was a difficult paper by all means, the term 1 sample paper, and to an extent the actual term 1 exam. So in a way they sort of resembled each other. But the term 2 sample papers, if that is anything to go by, then by all means the term 2 paper, for math at least, that is going to be particularly easy and rather standard. I've looked at the standard and basic, both of them seem pretty easy. Of course the standard is a little bit more harder than the basic one, but I do think that compared to the term 1 sample paper, the term 2 is much more easy, considerably easy. Its length is much shorter, meaning that the questions are easier to solve in the time frame, and and the questions, plus another thing which I should add on, the amount of questions in the sample papers in which we've been given pretty much all the subjects vary from anywhere from 13 to 15 per subject. So maths there are, I think, 14 questions, science there are 15, SST we're looking at 13-14, Hindi about the same, I think, unlike the term 1 papers which had 50 questions in each exam in the term 1 papers, and out of which you generally had to do 40. And leave 10 which you did not want to attempt or had trouble attempting. That was the thing here. But this time, when all the questions are mandatory and all the questions are subjective, and there's no single objective question out there, every question has to be written and explained like you would normally do in the previous board exams, which we have been doing for years. So all of you must be very well used to that. So there's not much change here. I was actually kind of scared about all this, and I thought that the papers would be really hard, that we would all face many difficulties, and CBSE will just give even harder questions, that they would not learn much from term 1 and give unfair questions which just are unfairly difficult, like I talked about in my video before. But it looks like they've learned their lesson, in the sense that the paper which is being given, it has questions, and the difficulty and the length of those questions is according to the time limit. I've talked a lot about the math paper. To summarize, it is standard, its difficulty is not that much, its time limit is fine. I direct no objective questions, so format is very much like the old papers. Time limit is of course much bigger this time, it's for 2 hours. The science exam, which I've also seen, is pretty much the same. If you didn't have much of a trouble with the term 1 science sample paper and the actual term 1 paper which came for science, then you should also have no problem with the term 2 paper. In difficulty, I think that the term 2 overall is easier. Overall, this was a welcome surprise, and all the new sample paper books which will be coming out now will be quite interesting. I would make more videos on that once they get released. The SST paper I saw was also again just that, it was standard, no objective. Looks like there are no objective questions overall for the term 2 exams. Looking at all these sample papers, I'm pretty much sure that there will be no objective questions, it will be full on subjective. So yeah, I've looked at all of the subjects, whether that be math basic, math standard, science, Hindi A, Hindi B. I've looked at English. Now English is the only subject in which I go as far as to say that the term 2 sample papers was actually a little bit more difficult than the term 1. Now why? Personally, I find some of the things in English confusing. I've already talked a lot about the English exam in my analysis video and how many mistakes it had in the answer sheet for term 1. So already English is kind of a subject which I have to be really careful with, not because I'm not good at it. I am pretty good at it, I'm confident in it, but the papers are filled with many errors and mistakes on CBSE's part. Everybody agrees with this. CBSE itself agrees to this. It has made many amendments to the question paper, and many questions have been removed. And I think the term 2 sample papers are much more harder than term 1. Particularly, I find that the objective MCQs in English are more easier than the subjective ones. This time, according to the paragraphs that we saw, they'll be giving you many graphs. Many people already say that, including many teachers, that the comprehensive passage for the term 1 exams for English for both class 10 and class 12 were both competitive level exams, even though it was an all country board exam. So I think that from now on, English will be one of the hardest subjects in CBSE. According to the sample paper, I personally thought it was tough, especially the passages and certain grammar and writing parts. That's all the information which I've derived from it. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Again, I'm trying to keep it as short as possible and try to give you guys as much information as quick as possible. So I hope you guys liked it, and yeah, goodbye.